Hello and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter.
She told me that I needed to immediately start working the steps. So I started with the 12 steps.
So let's take your power back and forgive, do the work to heal.
At that age, they're just saying it out of anger. There isn't a real intent to do it.
In all the aspects of our life, we look for diversity, but in church, we want everything to be in a box.
So it's really about empowering our family, keeping each other strong even when we're gone, and creating a legacy that will always exist.
Hello and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter. Today, we dive into a deep conversation on suicide, changing the narrative on mental illness for people of color. We'll be exploring a wide range of the most common aspects of suicide, such as grief of emotions and challenges such as guilt, blame and forgiveness, faith beyond surviving, anger, drama, sadness, emotional trauma, wondering why, warning signs, and more. Joining me today is Dhyana Parker. She's a mental health and suicide prevention and motivational speaker who will share with us her personal story, how her brother's suicide forever changed her life. Welcome, Dhyana. Thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me, Jocelyn.
Give us a little background about yourself.
Well, I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., mother of two, and grandmother of 6, and I work for the federal government right now.
Okay, let's dive into the questions. All right. Why is the stigma so strong in most cultures on mental illness among people of color?
I think it was by the way we were raised, we were always taught that Black people, we go to church if we're having some type of problem. Also with suicide, Black people don't take their lives. And during the time when my youngest brother passed away, we were still stuck in that stigma stage. So that's one of the things. And I think also because we always sweep everything under the rug. And I always say we can't keep sweeping things under the rug because after a while it's going to get lumpy and we can't step over it. So we're doing better, but we still have that strong stigma in cultures of color.
Right, it's like keep your business, your personal business in the house. Don't let everyone knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And plus you do not go to counseling to get help.
Exactly. So they always say go to the church, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you still also need that other aspect of it as well.
Right, because church is great. But like you said, you need the extra push. And it's sad because some people are really suffering.
Yes.
Are really suffering.
Yeah, it could be the person sitting next to you in church. And there are a lot of churches that also have a problem with that stigma. They have it there. They're making people feel uncomfortable with bringing it to someone within the church. And I thank God that my pastor, he'll tell you he's not a therapist. He's a pastor. He wants you to get help, but he'll also talk to you, guide you through there. And that's what you need in your life, especially since our culture of Black people, we are strong into church. So if you find that church base that's focused on it, that's going to support you, that's where you should be.
And it's sad because church is supposed to where we should be able to go, feel comfortable. But there are people in church, I'm not talking about everyone, the people in church who will look at you differently.
Exactly.
Give you that look.
Right.
And they're going to talk about you after church. When they get home after dinner, they're going to call their friend on the phone. Child, did you hear about her or him?
Exactly. And I've heard so many people state that they've been hurt by church. and they call it church hurt. And I understand at one time I didn't understand it. So one of my closest friends, she explained it to me what it meant, because she had that church hurt where she felt that she was expressing herself, coming to a church that she felt comfortable, but her business was spread around the church. So that's that church hurt. But yeah.
And that's another reason people say, well, why don't people come to church? Why do people come to church? Because of that. That's part of the reason why.
Exactly.
It's part of the reason why. Why did you decide to become an advocate for suicide awareness?
So after my brother passed away, so he passed away in 1994, and he was my best friend. So I lost a part of me. So for 17 years after his death, I went into my own deep depression. So 2012, I decided, okay, I got to get out of this funk. I have to figure this out. So I started looking for support groups, and I came across American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I gathered my family together September the 28th of 2012, I believe. We did our first suicide prevention walk. Mm-hmm. And it was so uplifting being around people that are dealing with mental illness, that have lost someone to suicide. The camaraderie, everybody coming together. It had no color, because it was all different colors there. So I wanted to be a part of something like that. So I started being a volunteer for the foundation. And then as it was growing, the foundation was growing. I think sometimes when we get big organizations, little people are missed. And I saw that a lot of people of color were being missed. The information wasn't getting there to them. So we started in 2019, we started the Rock for Life Foundation in honor of my youngest brother and others that are suffering and those that have lost someone to suicide. I had to realize that in something people that are thinking about suicide don't realize, when I lost my brother, my sons, they were 7 and 8, and my godson was 10. They lost me as a part of me as well. So I wasn't the best version of myself. So mental illness affects any and everything around you. People don't realize that. Your mental plays a factor in everything. So I said, okay, I have to get help, not just for me, but for my family as well. So with us being a part of the AFSP and then doing our foundation, it's been a healing process for all of us. We didn't talk about his death because it affected everybody in different ways, because everybody had their different relationships. Again, with my sons, he was more like their big brother versus their uncle. Again, I lost part of me, so they lost their mother. So I wasn't the best. I was a good mom, but I wasn't the best mom that I could have been because of that part.
Some people feel like, wow, 17 years, get over it.
And I tell any and everybody, no one has the right to tell you how you should feel, how something should affect you or whatever. There is no timeline on grief. It can be the littlest things that will bring it up. I have my moments where I miss my brother. Christmas was one of his favorite holidays. I look at my sons, the men that they have become. He's not here to see that. He's not here to see their family. So everyone is going to deal with death at some point in time in their life. So to tell someone 17 years, you don't have that right. You don't have a right to tell anybody. I've never lost a parent. I can't tell a person how to feel about that. I haven't lost a child. I can't tell a person how to feel about that. It can be the littlest things. It could be a smell, a song, a holiday, a birthday. It's a trigger. It can trigger any and everybody. So I don't like that. And that's one of my biggest problems when I hear people say that, because you don't have a right to tell a person how to feel about anything.
And it's sad because, if it happens to you, no one wants suicide. You don't know how that, you don't know how that person feels. And that's very insensitive.
Yes.
Now, this is different. I'm going to bring this up. My father and mother did not commit suicide, but I remember my mother passed first, 86. My mother passed at 74. My father passed at 86. And when my father passed, it was, it was really sad. And then his brother passed less than a year. And I said, I'm not going to the funeral. I just don't feel it. Right? It still hurts. And my cousin said, basically, you should get over it and support the family. I lit into her. Really, I lit into her. I said, how dare you talk to me that way? You don't know how it feels. I would not wish that on anyone. Well, you should just calm down. Just calm down.
Right.
So people just don't know.
They just don't know. So when just what you just said, when my grandmother passed away, my youngest son was living in North Carolina. And he said he wasn't coming to the funeral. And I was heated. I was going to go drive down there and pick him up and bring him back. But my cousin told me, no, let him deal with it the way he wants to deal with it. And I had to sit back and think about it. His relationship with his great grandmother. They were extremely close. So I wasn't the one to tell him how to deal with that. So I had to look at it that way and take into effect how it affected him, because I know how it made me feel. So it was things like that. People, I don't care if any death, no one has a right to tell anyone how to feel at all.
That's true. People do. Did you and your family feel guilty? Were there any signs that you noticed, but you didn't think there were signs? You know what I mean?
So that was in 94. Didn't think about it. So the more I became an advocate in mental illness and suicide prevention, and I think back, the signs were there. So my brother did ask me to find a therapist for him, which I did. But I never, ever thought that this would have happened. A few years ago, his best friend, who's like a brother to me as well, he told me that my brother had said it to him, how would you feel if I wasn't here? He said, he told my brother, stop playing around, whatever. He said, no, y'all will be okay. But I didn't find this out until maybe 6 years ago. And this was 94 when he passed away. So we talk now that we're comfortable, a little more comfortable with talking about it. The signs were there, but because we didn't know the signs, we couldn't recognize it.
Right. Your brother, it seems like he was testing the waters just to see. Not really testing the waters, but you know what I mean?
No, I understand what you're saying, because a lot of people think, and this is a myth, that if you bring up the word suicide to someone, if you think something is going on, it's going to put the idea in their head that they're going to do it. That's not true. 9 times out of 10, they already know that they're going to do it and when they're going to do it. Because when I look back and I talk about this part, my brother actually had it planned. My mom and my oldest brother and his wife went out. My mom came back. He was gone. So I had saw him actually that morning. So that's a myth that if you talk about it, that it's putting the idea in the person's head. No, it's not. 9 times out of 10, they already know. There's a lot of us that deal with suicidal ideations where we think about what would be if we weren't here. And it's not testing the waters. It's that thought process that's in our head that's saying, okay, if I'm not here, they will be better off. Things will be better. But people don't realize it's not better, because it leaves us here. And I had to come to terms with that with my youngest brother, because I didn't want to admit it, that I was angry at him for doing this, because you left us here to try to figure this out. You left your nephews here, 7 and 8 and 10, trying to understand this. So it's not that they're testing the waters. Like I said, 9 times
that's not the words I wanted to use.
No. But I get it. I understand what you're saying. 9 times out of 10, they already know what they're going to do. But then again, there is some people that just there's a lot of people, we have suicidal ideations, whether we want to admit it or not.
There are some people who said, suicide, you're going to hell. How do you know? To me, my personal opinion, of course, I'm not a doctor, suicide, it's like an illness. You're not well. You're not
Exactly.
thinking, and you need help.
Exactly. So key word is illness. That
Right.
key word is
Illness.
illness. So we go to doctor for diabetes, cancer, everything else. Mental illness is just that, mental illness. And people don't realize this. Your mental part plays a factor in everything. The
Right.
rest of your life. Your mental plays a factor in everything that goes on in your life. If you get sick, it's going to mess with you mentally. So people don't pay attention to that part. That mental part plays a factor in everything in your life. Health-wise, job-wise, relationship-wise, it plays a factor. So I really hope that now people will start paying more attention to that fact that mental illness is just that, mental illness. It's an illness.
I know somehow people look past that word mental illness and
Exactly.
think the worst. Or they didn't have to do this. They could have done this. How do you know? You're not in that person's head.
And that's another thing. They always say that that's somebody being selfish. No, they're actually not being selfish. They're hurting that bad that they don't know which way to go. They figure that hurt and that pain, if they're not here, everyone will be better off. So they're not looking at that part. So I say it this way, that we're being selfish when we start criticizing someone that has taken their life, because one, we don't know what they were suffering from. A lot of people are suffering from PTSD, past trauma, and we're not healing from that. So you never know what is going on in someone's mind. So for people to say that they were selfish and stuff like that, I think that person was selfish and thinking that they understand what another person is dealing with.
And you're not a doctor.
And you're not a doctor.
You don't have your degree in it.
Doctors don't understand it. Don't understand it either, because a lot of people that are dealing with mental illness in some aspect, we wear a mask. And I say this because I deal with my own depression. So we wear a mask, and sometimes we know how to fake it.
That's right.
Behind, and I tell people, behind every smile, there's a story. Behind every eyes, there's something that they've seen. So it's like and who are you to assume anything? And I think once we get past that part and also understand that illness, the mental illness aspect, we can put a cap on suicide. We can help people feel comfortable about going to seek help. And that's something that all of us are responsible for. I'm not leaving it just on one person. That's for everybody. Churches, there's a lot of pastors that actually, you're not a doctor, but you should take classes to understand it, because the classes are there to understand how to help your flock, because you're supposed to be leading these people. And if I can't feel comfortable coming to my pastor, that's a problem. That's a serious problem.
Do you think some pastors might say, well, we're just going to pray on it? That's how some people feel. We're just going to pray on it, and everything's going to be all right.
Yep,
everything's going to be okay.
That's that stigma. There's that stigma right there. That is the biggest thing. And I say this, it's everybody's job to help break the gap on mental illness and suicide. You are using your platform in a positive way. There's so many people out here that have a major platform. They won't even come to me to talk to me about it. Yeah, because sometimes we don't want to really know the answer to certain questions, but it's there. You have that platform. And one of my things is to curb this about mental illness and suicide. I look at comedians, or I look at different shows and stuff like that, especially Black shows. They always say, someone mentions about their mental illness, they'll say, oh, Black people don't go to therapy. That it should not be allowed, because that's keeping that stigma alive. Or a comedian joking about mental illness and suicide. is keeping that stigma alive, because you never know who's in your audience that say, hey, I'm having a problem. They're sitting there thinking, oh, I need to go to a therapist. Comedian comes out, make a joke about mental illness. That'll put it back where I say, nah, I don't want anybody to think this way. And also in careers, police officers, firemen, anybody in law enforcement, and people with security clearance, they do not seek help because they're afraid if it's found out, even though it's supposed to be confidential, some kind of way it always gets out. They're afraid that they're going to lose their job. So this person is piling on mental stuff, afraid to get the help that's there, that their jobs tell them to go to, but they're afraid that if it's found out, they will lose their job. There's a lot of law enforcement officers that are taking their lives. People so that's it's that stigma. It goes back to everybody needs to be educated on it. And we're in the technology age, there's no excuse, none whatsoever, none. There's NOMNI, there's American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, there's SAMHSA. There's so many different places that you can go online or just Google it to find out the signs, find help, find training, have the training, have people come to your job. I'm certified to train and teach about mental illness and suicide, because I can't come to you, sit here and talk about it, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So I try to get as much training as possible, and anybody can do it. And it's at this point, to me, it's a bunch of excuses. 94, we didn't have that. Now, yeah.
Do you still think today people still that know about the different places they can go for help?
No, you're right, because with me sitting here telling you, so I have people that come to me and ask me for resources. So I'm a facilitator for NOMNI PG. I have my mentor. She provides a lot of resources. The resources are there. I think we can do better on the resources. We as a advocate, and that's one of my things, we need to follow up to make sure the resources are still there before we're giving out information. But 9 times out of 10, all you have to do is Google it. It will come up. There's in our DMV, there's the behavioral health departments in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Then you have 988, which is the crisis hotline number that everyone should know by now. 988. Just like you got 911, you have 988.
I didn't know about 988.
Yeah, so they changed it from, it was a 1-800 number. So we have been fighting to make it a three number. So it's worldwide 988 crisis hotline number.
You were talking back about comedians. Now, this is what I've heard. You tell me if you heard this too. Comedians, when a lot of times they talk about their personal life, they make, fun of it. And there could be like comedians who want to commit suicide. And like you said, have that face in front of them, and people in the audience be laughing. Ha, 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 ha. He'd be laughing too. But inside's crying.
What you're saying, I just was Mike Epps. I was looking at a clip of something he was saying, and that's pretty much what it was. And a lot of it too with him was he was trying to carry the weight. And that's another thing. A lot of people try to carry the weight of the world. Right. Once I make it famous, I made it out of the hood. So I feel guilty because I couldn't bring everybody with me, or I'm bringing everybody with me and I'm guilty for that because they're not helping me mentally. So they're just taking from me. So it's so many different sides to that part. And I know a lot of them suffer. And it's even with anybody high level, when you look at what they're doing, a lot of them coming out of, as they say, they come out of the hood. I got to bring everybody with me. Since I made it, so that's a lot of weight that you're carrying on your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then, so I always say this too about the beginning of the school year. I tell parents to pay attention to their children. So you have the kids that are in elementary school going into junior high school, junior high going into high school, and high school going into college. So it's each level, they're starting over. So they're the little fish in the big bowl. Pay attention to their surroundings. Pay attention to what's going on in school, especially our college age kids, because once they're away from their family, I can't reach you. I'm somewhat of an adult, so I need to know how to handle this. And I tell parents, especially kids going to college, make sure they know where a counselor's office is, the nurse's office. They know 988. Get a support group. I spoke at Norfolk State, a group of sorority sisters, not knowing that one of their sorority sisters was having mental problems, and I didn't know. But she sat there in that room, and I found out after she was the first one to leave out. So then I found out that she had suicidal ideations, and she's tried it. So I made sure they all went and checked on her and checked back with me. But it's something parents need to pay attention to, and a lot of people feel that children don't know anything that are in elementary school. So that's wrong. They have feelings just like we do. Pay attention, talk to them, stop letting society, social media raise your children.
And that's
have
what
a
they
conversation with them. Ask the questions. And you can ask that question. Have you ever thought about hurting yourself? So many kids are being bullied that they're afraid to say anything. And we are having kids that are taking their lives at 7 years old. The youngest has been 7. That's because they're being bullied. Parents are not paying attention. It's something I grew up on. Sunday dinner, everybody sits down at the dinner table,
yes, we did, yeah.
Have a conversation. When I was at my grandparents' house, when my grandfather came home, grandmother had food done, granddad sit down, all the grandkids are sitting down, we having a conversation. We go out now, and I've been at fault at this. We go out to dinner to sit and be on our phones. That's the time to communicate with your family.
That's true. Man. Everyone's on the phone.
Yes, everybody's on the phone. That's that intimate time. Let's get back to that. My family, we didn't do it this year. New Year's Day, we had family game night. Everybody walked through the door, the phones go in the basket, and we spend that time together.
You know, sometimes it seems like we were going someplace. I told my sister, oh my goodness, I left my phone at home. And it's like we had our phone when we were born.
Exactly, you know? Exactly. We
cannot live without the phone. I know. I said to myself, this is crazy.
Yes.
You know, it's like it's part of me. My phone is part of me. I need my phone.
But I tell everybody to try just to get back to that part, to check in on your family, have the conversation, have crazy nights, karaoke night, just to bring back that. And also, just have an open conversation with your children, with your family members. If you see something that someone in your family is not acting right, something is off, have a conversation. Sometimes that opens up that floodgate. Give them the opportunity to say, hey, okay, this person sees this, so maybe they'll listen. Even if they want to go to therapy, they're afraid to go, tell them you'll go with them. You just sit in the lobby. So it's little things that we can do now that will make a big difference.
I remember you talking about kids in college. I remember when my mother passed at 74. I went away to school and I went to see a doctor. I didn't want to tell my family because I didn't want them to worry about me because we all lost our loved one.
Right.
And I didn't want to put that burden on them. So I see what you're talking about.
Right.
So I talked to him for a while. I didn't tell my family till years later. So I feel like they were suffering too.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. When you finally told them, how did they react to you?
They were surprised.
They were
surprised. Not the strong one. I was more like a baby. They were surprised because they didn't know. They
Right.
thought I would say something to them, but I didn't want to hurt them. I felt like I would be a burden to them to bring that up. So I went, these, thank goodness, I went elsewhere. But we are a close-knit family. You can be a close-knit
Right.
family, but sometimes
Right.
you just, it's like you protecting them.
So it goes back to someone that takes their life, like that's hurting. They feel like that's the biggest thing. They feel like they're a burden. So they feel that if they're not here, that burden is gone. But they don't realize what is left
It's still in the
behind.
beginning.
The pain that hole, because that's a hole that would never be filled. Because like I said, everyone's going to lose a loved one at some point in time, and normally it's a sickness or something like that. But to lose someone to suicide, to realize that you had a family member that was hurting that bad that they didn't want to be here on earth, that's hard, especially having a close-knit family. Yes. And it's
like I said, I feel like I'm protecting them,
So, but the thing is, when you finally told them, maybe it helped them as well. Because again,
right,
like me going to trying to find the help for myself, and then I brought the family into the walk. It was a healing process for everybody. My mom is the shyest person on earth that I know. To see her when we do events, interacting, because with our foundation, the last Sunday of July, my brother's birthday is July 29th. So that last Sunday of his birth in July, we will always go to Franklin Square. Pizza was his favorite food. So we will always have a pizza party. So to see my mother interacting with we'll have a pizza party for the homeless. We'll give out pizza, hygiene products and stuff like that. And to see my mom sit there and talk to people, it's amazing. So it's an outlet for all of them. Even when we have our back to school drive, our Thanksgiving, just to see my family and have my grandkids out there helping is amazing. So they've never met their Uncle Rocky, but they know what the significance of this foundation is, especially like what my oldest granddaughter, I was trying to figure out who was I going to leave the foundation to, who would run it after I'm gone. And I saw her. She stepped up at the age of 3. She's been right there. That little girl, she's 12 now, but she's been right there beside me. But it brings the family together. It's a healing process. Because like I said, my mom talks about it. My youngest son is in the medical field. My oldest son is in law enforcement. So they understand it, they see it, and they talk. It helps to bring it out in everybody. My cousins, we all, like I said, everybody had their different relationships. My cousins, it was the Fab Five. Everybody don't like us because we were the first 5 grandkids.
Oh, okay.
But, so we minus 1. So we all deal with it our own different way.
True.
So, but we are all dealing. But the positive part is that we're all dealing with it together. So,
that's true.
Yeah, in 2014, so when I talk about people that take their lives, they don't realize the trauma that they're leaving behind. So in 2014, I asked my family and some of his friends to write a message to him. So every anniversary of his death, I play this video, and it's messages from family members to him, letting him know how it affected them. So I play that when I go to different places as well, because it lets people understand the aftermath if you take your life, what you leave behind. Because there's always darkness, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to hold on and keep pushing through. So you're not giving yourself that opportunity to actually see the outcome.
Like it brought your family, you were close anyway, but it brought your family closer. And that's a good thing. And for some families, it's sad. doesn't bring them closer. They still have that shield. They won't say anything. And
That's because that guilt. Some people are feeling guilty about something, but they shouldn't feel guilty. And I tell any and everybody, I don't care what you're going through. I mean, I do care about what you're going through. Everybody and anybody should go to a therapist. Everybody and anybody, even if just to check in. I love my therapist. I check in. If she doesn't hear from me, are you okay? Yes. Everyone should see a therapist. If you think you're fine, that's fine. But sometimes you sit down and you start talking, some things might come out. And then again, we talked about this a few minutes ago. A lot of people are still holding on to childhood trauma. And that plays a factor in your life as well. So if they're not seeking help, that's still playing on your mental. That's still part of your mental.
It's so good listening to you talk. You know, like you said, you have your ups and downs. It would never go away. I think it get a little bit easier, but it never goes away.
Right.
You know, I do not ever want to go through what you go through. No one does. No one does. But it's great to the point that you can help, and your family is healed. They still have their moments, just like you do. Like you said, your family had different relationship. Your mother, your sister, all had different relationship, but you still had that love together. And when you talked about how he didn't know how he made y'all feel. I guess that pain is so great for them. They're not thinking that way.
Exactly. What you just said. Exactly. And people don't understand that. They don't try to understand it, especially with the internet. There's really no excuses. There's none whatsoever. We can look up any and everything. You can look up that.
That's right. Well, you're coming to the close.
Wow.
Of the program. I know. Oh, no. Do you have any last words to our viewers?
Again, I want everyone we're in 2025. Take a look at yourself. Take a look at your family. Spend that quality time with your family. Connect. Ask the hard questions. There's nothing wrong with asking the hard questions. I'd rather someone be mad at me for me asking that question and not have that at Christmas dinner. So I'm going to ask that question. I don't care anymore. I don't want to lose another family member. I don't want to see it when it comes across the news. Sometimes when I see things with young adults, I know what the outcome was. And it's sad that that's the first thing that pops in my head. Love on your family. The crisis hotline for mental illness is 988. Vets can use it. Anyone and everyone can use it. It's 988. Google, you can find anything. Pay attention to people's body language. If something's changed in them. Just, again, don't be afraid to ask the hard question. Me being a mental health and suicide prevention advocate, it's still hard, but this was where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. But sometimes I do have to take a step back because I have to realize that the reason why I'm in this place is because my brother is no longer here. I would rather have my brother here than to be in this place. But God put me here for a reason, for my family to tell our story. So I have to look at that. But then sometimes it is hard. I know what I'm going through and how I feel. I can only imagine how my dad feels, how my mom feels. And I have to look at them. Any and everything that I do or we do, because I'm the face of the foundation, but anything that we do or plan for the foundation, it goes through my whole entire family. My mom first, my dad first. Before we even started the foundation, I asked my mom's permission and my dad's, because that's their child.
Right.
That's going to bring, so I have to be mindful of that part as well. And sometimes she did something absolutely amazing. We were honored in Philadelphia in October. And we rode up there, my mom, my aunt, my cousin. and she accepted the award. Normally she's pushing me. I went up with her, but after that, she was in pictures. I'm not even in the pictures. But I'm very proud of her. She's coming out of it. But again, I can only imagine how she feels to lose her child, her baby. That was her baby. My dad, that's his namesake. So
he's looking down and so proud of you and your family.
I thank you.
You're doing a remarkable job, you and your family.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
having me. And for our viewers, what did she say? I'm sorry.
No, I said thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for accepting to come on the show. I appreciate that. Okay.
And people can look up the Rock for Life Foundation and see the things that we're doing in the community.
Okay, thank you. And for our viewers, if you like what you see, subscribe to the Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on the show? Head over to our website, www.jmentertainment.info. On the home page, click on the word About and follow directions to be a guest. Thank you so very much, Dhyana, for being a guest, sharing your personal story and your courage. We are grateful for you to share your story and having people to be aware and giving you all the information, the phone numbers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
To our viewers at home, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, have a good day. Thank you, everyone.